Moving Tesla all around.
Thank you for listening to this.
Yep.
Playing it.
What's up?
One more time. I know I'm moving again. We got to adjust the cameras.
Purple? Why the purple selection today?
Purple? People have told me that I am purple. I realize that sounds weird. I've been told you are purple. And I went, okay, I'll be purple.
So listen.
Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda. honey.
Listen, Linda, honey.
Listen. Big Bang Theory. I gave it a shot this weekend.
Did you?
Fucking terrible.
Listen.
Effing
Did you watch
terrible.
Early seasons or recent seasons?
I watched from the beginning.
Okay, I will say number one, beginning, not as good. Gets better.
Oh, okay.
I used to hate the show, Joe. I used to
hate it.
I used to hate it too.
I can't believe you told me to sacrifice some of my weekend time to watch that liberal trope that is Big Bang Theory.
What?
Yeah, you combine like someone who's intelligent and being fed lines from the liberal mind hive. Like it was awful.
What season
like,
did you watch?
It was terrible.
Well, here's the thing. I used to hate the show too. I thought it was not funny at all. It was stupid. It wasn't entertaining. I did not like the show. And it wasn't until, I wouldn't say I was forced to watch it, but I started having babies. I was up all night. It was on at night and it was just on in the background. So I would catch it more and catch it more and catch it more. And as the seasons go on, I'm like, this is pretty funny. Now it's clever writing. And now I'm into it. No, I like it.
Okay. Worst referral ever, I have to say. Thank you so much for...
Give it more of a chance. Do you at least see that you were kind of Sheldon Cooper?
No, not at all.
Oh my God.
Having been fed liberal talking points...
What are you talking about?
That go through the filter of an intelligent person. Like,
what about it was liberal?
Stop. You're done. Like your recommendations have
Give me one example of a liberal.
I'm not doing it.
Oh, because I don't think you can.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
All right, I will start making a list. I'm still gonna watch a little bit because I'll halfway believe you that it gets better.
It
and
does.
Like those little hatchet marks, right, of liberal tendencies come through an intelligent person. Like that's where they lost me. All right, anyway. You get first strike. What do you got?
I don't know. You just shit all over my show.
I wish it was good. Like I wanted it to be good.
I'm telling you, I hated it too.
Yeah, I
hated that show.
I watched Young Sheldon, and that was much better.
I do like Young Sheldon.
Much better.
I do like Young Sheldon. What else did I? Oh, did you ever see Moulin Rouge?
Oh, that was dumb. Really? Let me guess. Moulin Rouge, Wicked, and Hamilton is in your.
No, I actually recently I saw Wicked. Didn't
terrible.
Care for it.
It was
it's not
freaking
good,
terrible.
And that has nothing to do with wokeness or political agendas.
Not good.
Didn't care for it.
Good.
My daughter saw the second one. She saw Wicked for good. She also did not care for Wicked, and she said the second one is better. So maybe I'll see the second one. But I was like, I don't know if it had too much hype. So, you know, when like you're told something's awesome, you like go in with maybe too high of expectations. Maybe that was it. But I didn't care for Wicked,
Yeah.
but I love Moulin Rouge.
See, I like the Wizard of Oz where they all ran around on unicycles better than the Wicked where they took the villain and tried to cast them as some kind of noble creature. Like that was just dumb and on all
It
accounts.
just felt like it goes on and on and on unnecessarily. Like, can we just sort of get to the point and wrap it up?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brad. Young Sheldon was great because it basically highlighted and profiled the most interesting part of the character without the political trope that figured a way to kind of like ingrain itself in.
I don't see
I
Big
know,
Bang
I
Theory
know.
as being political.
It is. It totally
Maybe I
was.
relate to it because I very much like at one point in my younger days, like when they were younger, had a group of friends where I was very much the penny and I had someone who was just like Sheldon and just
well,
like
that's
Raj
fine.
and just like Howard.
But you get over that in 20 seconds. Then it's the merit of the character development. And it was terrible. Like what you did with that character and squandered it on political stuff. Like that's where they kind of freaking lost me.
What about it was now I have not seen the early season in quite some time. I usually watch later season reruns on TBS.
You were a hippie liberal when you were watching it, so it all aligned with your biases.
I don't remember any sort of political agenda.
Here's what I want
show.
you to do. I watched 4 episodes. You go watch 4 episodes, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Of the very beginning?
Very beginning.
Oh, I told you I hated it in the beginning.
Right. That's fine.
It did. It does get better.
If you don't want my review, don't tell me to go watch a show and then give you my review. That's my review. Hamilton was fucking terrible.
I never saw that.
From a historian standpoint, someone who loves American history and all of the players and all of their foibles and all of the people who did, exceptional things. Hamilton was a disappointment because here's what happened. They took the lowest IQ cheerleader and they had them put a musical around characters that I freaking love from history. And so like the accounts were like the dumbest versions of all of their character traits. That's what I hate about Sheldon. Like you take this, supreme superpower in a person and you squander it and having a dumb cheerleader's perspective on it. That's my review.
How so?
Just go rewatch 4 episodes so you know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, promise me you'll watch later seasons.
Yeah, I'm in now and I'm giving it a chance and I'm irritated the whole time, but I'm watching it.
This is a great experiment. This is a great experiment. How much you hate it. And if you continue to watch more and more and more and more and more, you tell me you're not chuckling after a while. And you're going to be like, oh, this is delightful.
Listen, number 1, laugh tracks offend me.
I know you hate laugh tracks.
I freaking hate laugh tracks.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just sort of like the indoctrination cycle of where, pop culture wants to take, malleable minds and like bring them into a certain way of thinking. Like, it's so cheesy. It's so bad humor. Like, let's just let a really smart person dominate everybody else. And I'm in. But when you have butt of jokes and you have liberal tendencies in the narrative, like that's where you freaking lose me.
I'm going to have to go back and see.
Yeah, go watch it.
What would have been taken as a liberal tendency.
Liberal tendencies.
So I'm assuming
messaging.
I'm assuming you did not watch the Golden Globes last night.
Although, like the comics, Ricky and
Nikki Glaser.
Nikki Glaser. She's Glacier.
Glacier.
Yeah. Anyway, I love when they take shots at celebrities because deep down inside they're like smoldering with anger, and I love that we put a little bit of a hit to them. But no, I did not watch it.
I didn't either, actually. I was busy and I didn't have a chance to watch it, but I could have made an effort and I did not, just because I'm like, kind of like you've said before, I think the award shows used to be entertaining. It used to be a night of like glamour and seeing stars that you liked and talking about films or TV that you were really into and just seeing the theatrics of it all. And it was entertaining. And they're slowly becoming more and more just political rallies and statements and
Jewish space lasers. Yeah,
they got to do their little protests and things. And I'm like, if I want to watch the news, I'll watch the news. I turn to Hollywood because it is the entertainment
Escape.
industry. Yes.
Freaking escape.
I want an escape. I just want fun and glamour and thrill and happiness and joy. And I just want to see people not kick a dead horse with politics and death and destruction. And it's just not. Julie says, One Battle After Another was a great movie.
I've not seen it.
I've not seen it, but it's like up for a whole bunch of awards, I think. And
okay. I'm open to it. I like that kind of stuff, but been disappointed lately in all the production value of everything that, these, I don't know, entitled, celebrities decide to use their platform to push narrative that make it neutral, make it things that people can all agree on, which I don't know what's even left where we have a standard of what unifies us. Music used to be it, and then they bastardized that. Movies used to be it, and then they bastardized that.
And I don't even care. Like, you have some people that say, oh, well, these celebrities have a platform and they should use it. And some say, no, just entertain us and stay in your lane.
Exactly.
I don't even care if a celebrity wants to go and be an activist and protest and speak out in their own time, their own platform. But an entertainment show, movie, like an award show when you're being recognized for a job you did on a film or what have you, that's not it. If you make that, once again, like everything else I see on TV or in the news, I'm out. Now, what do we turn to for relief? I don't even know.
I like cat videos. I still like them.
Cat videos?
Yeah, they're apolitical. They're funny. And cats are just awesome.
I've been watching otter videos. You like otters?
No.
I have a new appreciation for otters.
Why?
They're adorable.
Okay.
Number one, they make cute little squeaky sounds, and you can swim with them. There's like somewhere in Cleveland you can go and like get in like a pool with otters and let them swim all around you. And I'm totally doing it. I want to go do this. Otters are adorable. No one else is watching otter videos. They're all over my feed now, and I gotta say, it is a nice break.
River rats. You like rats? Rats are
no,
cool.
I don't like rats.
Want to walk with some rats?
No.
Want to share your cheese with some rats?
No, they're not rats.
They're freaking rats.
They're like the cats of
they're
the
river
sea.
rats. No, they are not.
Brad says otters are way cooler than cats.
I agree to disagree on that.
I like cats, but otters are... See, Julie loves otters. Everybody loves otters, Joe. What's wrong with you if you don't like otters?
Name a famous otter. Something changed the world, like really affected the humanity's trajectory.
A famous cat changed the world?
Yes, freaking Garfield.
I knew you were going to talk about a cartoon.
Freaking Garfield was amazing.
Lord. I've heard otters are kind of jerks, like that they can like be mean to each other.
Thank you for taking your bias and pushing it down.
That's true.
And bringing a little bit of illumination to how big of dicks that otters are.
But they're so cute.
Cute dicks.
And they seem
kind
of sweet.
Dick. Absolutely.
Everybody likes a cute dick. Speaking of celebrities and animals, I am starting to like Jennifer Lawrence less and less.
Why? What'd she do?
And I used to like her. I thought she was funny. I liked her personality. I like her movies. She has started to become a little too outspoken politically. She publicly stated she's going to quell that because she's sick of people fighting, and I can respect that. But she made another statement now that she doesn't care for dogs. And I get it. A dog bit her son. And she says she's now a no-go on dogs. She doesn't like being around dogs. And she says cats are very misunderstood. But listen, you want to use your movie star platform to get political, and now you don't like dogs. I'm liking this person less and less. And I don't want to like her less.
Not on her political... Not on her political reason.
That's what started it.
Hold on.
Started it.
Is she liberal? Is she? Yeah, totally liberal. So are you using the anti-dog portion just to hate a liberal, and you don't have to come out and say, I hate her for her support of X?
No, I don't even mind if she is a liberal. I'm sick of, like I said, celebrities instead of being in the entertainment industry, instead of entertaining us, bringing up more shit that just divides us. And she said she realizes that topic is divisive and she doesn't want to add to that. And I was like, all right, you scored a few more points with me. Thank you for shutting up about this. But then you said you don't like dogs. And that really says something about a person, I think.
Okay. So Sydney Sweeney a 10, and now she is a 4. Like, where did she slide
Sydney
down?
Sweeney doesn't like dogs?
No. Sydney Sweeney's, she's got great genes. She's a 10 still. And I'm saying, like, is a 4 now. Is a 3. She's a 3.
I don't know if Sydney Sweeney is a 10.
Sydney Sweeney.
I think Jennifer Lawrence is prettier than Sydney Sweeney.
Well,
now Sydney's got bigger boobs. That's
an
kind of
offset.
her appeal.
That's an offset.
She's very blessed topically. Her face is okay.
Okay.
Her face is okay. I think Jennifer Lawrence has a pretty face. Yeah. I like Sydney Sweeney. She's talented. I don't know if men would find her as attractive as much as they do if she were not so well endowed.
But she is. So you can't deconstruct that.
So really, you don't like Sydney Sweeney. You like boobs is what it is.
Okay.
You're like, wait, there's an actress attached to those?
You can't decouple that. Like, it's part of her aura.
Makes her.
But Katniss is she's a badass.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that about her.
I like Jennifer Lawrence's movies. Really, she's a great actress. She is. Hunger Games is good. What's that one where she was like the crazy lady and it had Christian Bale in it? You guys know what I'm talking about. She was good in there. She's got a new movie coming out with Robert Pattinson that she seems pretty good in from what I've seen on the trailer. It's a good example of how a celebrity can alienate fans by kind of not staying in their lane.
But see, I can watch a De Niro film and not hate him when he's doing his thing, as long as he doesn't take his personal beliefs, which I don't have any respect for, and put him in the character. If he feels obligated to like lecture me when he's in a role, then he doesn't know what his lane actually is. And so I can, as the viewer, still be entertained by people because they're doing their thing. If I'm a juggler, right? I'm juggling. And you love me for my ability to machete juggle, right? So long that because I'm like, Kelin is paying attention to me, right? I'm juggling and she loves me for my juggling. But let me tell her right now how she feel about international banking. And you're going to say, like, shut up and freaking juggle,
Make
you
me a bicycle clown.
Yes.
Shut up, funny man, and make it.
Yes. Juggle those machetes and shut up about international banking and Jewish space.
Yeah. We had a couple comments above as I'm choking on my spit.
You lie. There was nothing about that.
I was awaiting Robert De Niro. That's what I was looking
at. Joe says, I agree with Julie. One
Dying.
Battle was great, and so was Frankenstein. This was the way Mary Shelley wanted her book told. And Jerry says, I was watching Robert De Niro come out and babble and dribble his political rhetoric, and I must have missed it. Well, that's good. If he has learned.
I don't think Robert De Niro would be involved. I don't think he's done anything recently, but anywho, go on. If he's learned.
If he has learned that that's not what our appeal to him is, like if Sydney Sweeney said, I had breast reduction surgery, that would be flying in the face of her fans and why we love so much to see Sydney Sweeney. It's acknowledging why we love you and not making us feel guilty about why we love you. Robert De Niro had roles that are iconic, and we appreciate him for those roles. And most of us can see, as long as he sticks to that lane and acknowledges in the other direction, we're cool with him. He can have all of his own opinions outside of the roles. But once you bring it in, right?
Yeah.
And sort of like the alienation comes from when you can't respect why we love you and don't know why we love you.
And what makes it even worse is when they have the gall to give you, the viewer, crap for not feeling their way. Like, lots of celebrities are obviously pro a candidate. Like, Taylor Swift was supportive of Kamala Harris. Okay, that's fine. Tim Allen was really well known for being pro-Trump and conservative. Okay, don't care. But when you have people like, oh, who was it like Red Jumpsuit Apparatus maybe was one, and there was I don't know if it was Lizzo, or when you get these singers that then say, if you like so-and-so, don't listen to my music.
Right.
Then I'm like,
okay.
I was like, you know what? I didn't. I was on your side, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
It's like that again, that is the epitome of not staying in your lane. It's one thing if you just want to say, hey, I really like this or really dislike this. Do with that what you will. That's a risky little game nowadays. But when you call out people that don't like what you like and don't support what you choose to support, and you say, don't support me if you like that. All right. See how that works out for you.
Well, that politics is so ingrained, and that's why like family relationships can't survive it. If you find out that your brother-in-law supported Trump or whatever, you're cutting ties and ending a relationship, because politics become more important than relationships at that point. You have an identity in politics. I had a great meeting last week with someone who I disagree politically on just about every point imaginable. Like, I have argued with this person, but when it came to business, we were able to take all of our, those opinions and put them whatever and worry about business. And it was a great meeting. And I was like, that is actually a skill set that we're going to have to teach. Like, the people on the Hill at the universities are going to have to tell people like, hey, you know what? Being interested in politics is a cool game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not who you are. Like, It's not important enough. You shouldn't lose your life over it, lose relationships over it, or put yourself in peril because of what you believe or feel in. And I think a lot of these martyrs, especially, liberals, are especially like Minneapolis and whatever, they have so much conviction about that identity. They feel like they're cosplaying in sort of like, I am serving in history as pushing against oppression. Mm-hmm. When everything is concocted in your brain, you want to have some kind of Hitler to fight against. And if there's no Hitler to fight against, I'm going to make up a Hitler and make him my opposition. And now you feel justified in the cosplay and justified in the conviction of the cosplay. And it's it's got all bad things associated with it.
What do you think has contributed the most to this idea of every issue is this big, historic, life-changing thing? Like, we heard about people protesting and marching against racism and for equality and for rights of African Americans to do things that the whites can do and all of that. And that, I think is kind of uniformly accepted as a good cause, a moment in history that was changing things. Why is it nowadays people think everything is that? Like, put your life on the line for this. That's probably going to just be done in a few months, or, like, not life worthy, if that makes sense. Do you think that's been ingrained in people? Do you think that is manipulated by outside forces to make people that way?
So we need purpose. Human beings are adaptable creatures, and we need a crusade. And when we don't have one, we will create one. If we don't have religion, we create a religion. We don't have a crusade, we create a crusade. And we just pick what's available around us. And that's the downside. And philosophers, ancient philosophers, all the way to modern, human beings are both constructive and destructive. And really what we point our focus on is the thing that we can make the most change on. Okay. Let's just say you get to you have a primitive society where you can actually contribute and invent things and change things and actually add to the net value of your civilization. It's pretty easy for everybody to get involved to make things better. You go to a sophisticated deal, you have 50% of the population that just do not have the capacity to make any kind of added value to it, right? You can't invent the next technology. You can't make a structural change. You won't get anybody to listen to you because you're just too dumb, right? And so you go to these, I need purpose, but I'm not smart enough to involve myself in the things that really matter. So you go over here and you just create chaos because at least you can get involved. I can be famous, right? I can have purpose. If I go over here and put my life on the line and martyr myself towards something that was an illusion, something I made up and concocted in my head. So then the people that are in a controlling power, if you want to just keep those people occupied, you give them an infinite amount. Like, so let's just say Al Sharpton, right? Biggest charlatan in our lifetime, needs racism to be a thing. He becomes more powerful the more people he convinces that they are running against the fixed game. Don't look at the real world. Don't make an opinion of your own. The world is racist and you're oppressed and you're a victim. You better fight back against it, right? And then so you got a bunch of really dumb believers who are just like, oh yeah, I'm really oppressed. Life was hard. When you take a comparison between someone here and here, I bet you the things you're pushing against are uniform, right?
Yeah.
There is injustice. There are things that aren't fair. It's hard, right? But if I tell you every day of your life that you're a victim of it and it's the deck is stacked against you, like you're going to come at it from a different angle than someone who's like, oh, life sucks and I better try harder and take my boots and my bootstraps and pull myself up out of it. And that's the experience. Two different people with the same kind of oppressions of unfairness, controlled by a bunch of people who just want to keep you occupied in some kind of plight. The people who have made it want everybody to struggle so that they're occupied in the struggle. And those occupied in the struggle, you want to have a cognitive dissonance that somehow you're playing some kind of role that is unimportant.
Do you think, too, they sort of have this mindset? We've talked before about the idea of like, me as a woman, I might have this false sense of security to get mouthy at a guy in a bar because I think you can't hit a woman.
Right.
You can. You shouldn't. Maybe that's an old school mindset, but it's almost like we're seeing a whole bunch of that mindset of I'm going to go get in the face of because you can't touch me. And then you find out they actually can touch you.
Well, what's the premise? Why would men not hit women?
Idea originally that they were the weaker sex and we should protect them and that there's a difference in strength.
So men's job was to protect women, right? So if we bought into that premise, there's some costs and there's some benefits to that. Once you no longer be protected, all of the rules that govern protecting women, right, go out the window. You give up the protection card when you're strong enough that you don't need to be protected. So let's just say you're an equal to me, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally, right? And then you came to me and said something. Would you want to be judged by an equal, where if you said something, you would get a response from me? Or would you like to be someone who I need to be protected? You have to decide. If I'm protecting you, then you're going to behave a certain way. If I'm not protecting you, if you're just an equal, then you're an equal and you get hands if it's deserved of hands.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is still a little bit of a gray area there where people want to both be equal and have not chivalry, but like a difference.
Well, that's human nature. You want all the benefits and none of the downsides.
Yeah.
So let's just say guys pay for your drinks, right? That is something that guys don't get that women do, right? And is that an act of chivalry?
Sometimes.
Okay. Opening doors for you.
Yeah.
Putting your coat over a puddle for you.
Yeah.
Putting you on the sidewalk side instead of the street side.
Yeah.
Right. Those are all mechanisms of protecting. Just celebrating women and acknowledging that we're here to protect you.
Yeah.
Right. All you have to do is be worthy of protection and you get all the benefits. So it's like, you know what? I want equality, but I want free drinks still. Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing you got to be like, I'm going to give up the benefit. If I say that I'm just another guy in the bar, like a guy sitting next to me, I'm not buying him a drink. Right. So if you want equality and you're willing to give up all the benefits of not having the equality, you had an elevated position. All women did. It's like, I don't want the elevated position. I want equality. That's cool if you say those things and you're willing to pay all the cost and consequences that come with that statement.
That's true. Yeah. I just think the biggest thing too is the people in power, the leaders, encourage this because they benefit from it,
Right.
obviously. So they're never going to say the thing that makes sense. Like they're never going to say if there's protesters and things are getting dangerous and people are getting hurt, you could simply say, look, you have the right to peaceful protest, but get out of the way. Don't go physically put yourself in harm's way.
Well, they don't have any obligation because
Yeah.
they are you ahead of you in the race. So let's just say I want to run a marathon, right? And there's some people back there that technically can do it, but psychologically, I know how to own them. So I tell them things like, you're not going to do it. You shouldn't even train. You should eat a lot of cupcakes. There's no water for you. You're not even going to finish. What obligation do I have as the person who wants to win to take people who can't motivate themselves, need outside assurances to not psychologically dominate them? So you want the people ahead of you to be better, no more noble people, but go ahead and reverse roles. If you're in that position, aren't you doing the same exact things? So it's an argument for you either got to have a standard of human nature. We all behave the same way, no matter if you're ahead or behind, right? Because the power dynamic and the financial dynamic are in parallel. So if you're behind, you want the people ahead of you to follow the rules, and you want to be able to break some rules to be able to catch up, right?
Mhm.
Or you can believe in the principle of all justices, where you want the same rules to apply to you. You don't want to F with anybody ahead of you, and you don't want anybody ahead of you to F with you. But so long that, we're in a competitive deal where the people that are in positions of power want to accumulate more, and they want to suppress people or oppress people that are below them. And as long as, you have a culture of agnostic secularism, then really there's no rules governing it. You're not holding yourself to a standard at the above rings or below rings, but you expect people that are above you to behave better than you. Like, that's never going to happen. So you got to almost accept it and say, this is a competitive race. It's a dog for dog. I'm not going to expect that person to behave any different than me. I would lie, cheat, and steal. So I'm going to expect them to lie, cheat, and steal. And if I don't want to lie, cheat, and steal, then I'm going to basically have a negotiation between everybody and say, I promise to X if you promise to Y. We hold people to standards of morality, and then everything is fair. But we can't cheat our way to equalization between those two things. As long as financial and power dynamics exist, there will always be the competitive nature of human nature, and that's what you get 100% of the time. So it's like, do you think in the last week you lied at a certain point?
I lied.
Yeah.
I don't think I did. Maybe.
Objectively, if somebody was a critic of yours and they followed you around and whatever, they could catch you in a lie.
Yeah, there's probably like white lies or
Okay.
something there. Yeah.
Do you think that somebody in Congress, if somebody followed around, they told some white lies?
Yeah.
Who's the worst person? Why would you have so much conviction about a legislator, right, lying? And you even said it like, oh, how dare they lie? But yesterday you did the same thing.
Yeah.
Why would you hold them to a higher standard than you? They're human beings.
I know. But some people do. Some people say, well, you're in a different position. You're in a position that you should have this higher standard. So is it reasonable, though, to think that in certain situations that...
Well, flop it. To put you in
Yeah.
the legislature position. And yesterday you told white lies, and you're in a position where it's a complicated set of negotiations between people. And you're going to be like, oh, I could totally white lie. I've fully practiced in that. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to take a skill set. I'm going to be the noble gentlewoman.
Yeah.
Right? Could you do it? No, you're a human being. You can do the same stuff when you're a regular person as you are when you're in the state capitol or the federal building or whatever. And because it's human beings, right?
Yeah. We, when I was living down south, well, actually it happened right after I moved from the south to back up here. There was a well-known mayor down south near, not in the town I lived, but close by. He was not only the mayor of the small town, but he was a pastor in a small church in his town. Something came to light that he does in his personal life that was looked out as wrong. Not illegal, but morally wrong. Humiliating, very much against what the Bible teaches us. And he was sort of outed as leading this double life. And the backlash he got was so strong, so quick, he took his own life.
Mhm.
And all I could think is, this poor man was clearly struggling with something. He was expressing it in a way, again, not illegal, just wrong for a pastor. And I kept thinking, like, don't we preach acceptance and being human? And he was human and he was flawed, and people just went for the jugular instead of giving any kind of grace, which church teaches us to do. And somebody said, but you have to understand, he was on a different level and he was in a position that he should have been not doing that. And so I don't know. I struggle with that. Is how much emphasis do we give those that put themselves in a position that, hey, you are the leader here. You are the one with decorum. You are the one who is supposed to set an example, but also know they're human and it's impossible for them to be a lot different than the rest of us humans. I don't know.
But we learn this through life, but we're a little bit disillusioned by it. So for instance, did you have a like a student council for high school?
Yeah.
And so if you were to take the premise, if we lived in a moral world where we only took the most moral, intelligent of us and put them in positions of power, that would be us saying that's our convictions. We want to be led by people who are of a higher standard than we are, higher intellectual capacity than are. In your student council, did you put like the smartest, most vanilla, most boring, capable person? Or did you just put the most popular person in that position?
I don't remember exactly. I feel like things like student council was the smart kid, boring. Things like homecoming court was the
Well, any of those capacities. If we were great as a body, where our first level of nominating someone for a position was their moral worth, their decision making, and their intelligence, right? Mm-hmm. If that was really something that was important to us, then we can complain when somebody doesn't act and behave to a moral standard, because it was such a high standard to us, we would never think of putting a Donald Trump in office. Never in a million years would we think of. But if Donald Trump is just one in a sea of Donald Trumps, right? Then when he does something that offends us in a certain way, then we're like, oh, we don't have that standard, and we're willing to put any idiot up there that serves our interests rather than being of high moral character or high intelligence or perfect for the capacity of the job. So we do end up getting exactly what we want. We do. And it's a reflection of humanity that if all we do is put and worship heroes that are popular rather than have the capacities of the positions that they're doing, we can never complain or be surprised, right?
Yeah.
When we put somebody like, we don't even have a sense of irony where we'll put like a terrorist on a committee that manages terrorism, right?
Yeah.
And so like the rest of us are like, no, you didn't. You did that. that was what was important to you. And again, like it's an irony, and it's, the people like me are like, we see the catastrophe that comes from putting the worst of us in positions of power, and what that will become. Mathematically, it's a certainty. So no shit when it happens. Yeah. And we watch normies who absolutely, like Madami is a good example, right? How did he get elected as the mayor of New York? So if your student council said we're going to put Gatorade in the water fountains, and all the really dumb people are like, I really like Gatorade, right?
Yeah.
And then they elect him, and he makes sure taxes high, chases businesses out, creates drug addictions and homelessness, crimes off the charts, everything costs more, failed experiment. And then you're like, hey, but he said Gatorade, right?
Yeah.
I will write that, put that in an envelope, talk to me in 2 years and tell me where everything's at, right? And if I'm not right, and everybody's so confused how that came to pass, how did I see that? And all the people who are like, Gatorade's awesome, right? How did they not see it?
It's what plants crave.
It's what plants freaking crave. Joe, I disagree. People tend to be just like whom they hang out with. Example, if you aren't a drinker and start hanging out with drinkers, you will become a drinker. Yeah, but you multiply that, but everybody's an idiot and everybody's hanging out with idiots, so everybody becomes an idiot. That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Can you think of an example of somebody that in our political realm seemed to have maybe a higher moral compass, more integrity, more of a likable person, but ended up being bad at the job?
Boring at the job, not bad at the job.
Okay.
So in politics, right? It's like the Coliseum, right? If everybody gathers and you put the warrior and the tiger in there, you know what you're there to see. You want blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the warrior goes in there, it does some kind of like Jedi mind tricks with the tiger, and the tiger falls asleep. Are you going to be disappointed that you didn't get to see the bloodshed that you were after? So it's the human nature that wants to see the fight and wants to see the domination and wants to see the enemy killed and in gore, huge gore, right? Versus like the warrior did the smart thing, put the tiger to sleep. Nobody had to die. Oh, that's awful boring. We don't want that.
Was it you who said to me before Trump was elected, the media needs Trump to win?
Oh yeah. They needed it
because
nobody was watching.
What are you gonna talk about if
the drama?
If you have a president that just goes in and stays quiet and keeps his head down and doesn't rock the boat? And
Julie says Jimmy Carter, nice guy, completely capable, well politically connected, didn't understand how brutal politics were. It's almost like if Mitt Romney would have won that election in, I don't even know what freaking year that was. Yeah. He would not get anything done. He would be very boring. There's even been Speaker of the Houses that tried to play nice and work with the other side, and it was a complete cluster because there was no fighting. There was, nobody got to one. It was always a concession after concession. Yeah. And then you have like a Newt Gingrich or I would say Mike Johnson is probably a pretty docile Republican. So you have elements of that show, but it never pays out. Think about how many Republicans want to gang tackle Mike Johnson right now. Why? Because Republicans controlled the House and the Senate and the executive branch, and they got shit done for anything legislatively, right? So it's like the Coliseum, and Mike Johnson played the game, was very boring. He said a lot of things, but actually getting anything done that went in the Republicans' interest, it was a non-starter for that dude.
Julie says G.W. Bush.
George W. Bush. George was different. Like, that's an interesting story, and I think that's one that will get itself written into the history books with how much that was an anomaly. He was torn to shreds. He was probably they wanted to cast him as a dumb guy because that's where we're at in politics, where he was smart in some certain areas on the business side, and socially he was a dimwit, right? And so he did not play any cards right. Misplayed so many hands it wasn't even funny. So he got to be casted as this idiot, even though if you put today's president and George W. in the ability to get something done, George was probably more able because of his connections and how respected he was in his departments. The problem was he succumbed to the pressures where Trump is better at being a belligerent idiot, and he's good at owning people and playing the entropy game. George W. was not that. So they're probably of equal in nature of capability. Trump is more successful at it because of the strategy that he plays. George W. was too nice of a guy, and he played a little bit passive, and he got gang tackled by the establishment.
How about Obama?
What about him?
Do you feel he was likable? I thought he was a likable guy.
Like a character in the movie.
Yeah, like you would see him and be like, oh, I'd go have a beer with him and hang out, and he's probably cool. But was he great for the
function
job?
Of the job? No.
Yeah.
He was just another captured, corrupt a politician. So if you're measuring him for people who vote and like him enough to vote for him versus, and that would be like the football player on homecoming court versus someone who could do a really good job at it. We wanted a black guy, so we wanted a minority as being the first one. He was very well spoken and respected in Chicago, but it is Chicago after all. So he ended up just being a very mediocre politician. That his the role that he played in that time period had helped him come into a job that he would have never otherwise. He was not an accomplished legislator. He didn't have a lot of W's in the effective world. It just so happened that we want a black dude. And I'm surprised that a Hillary Clinton or a Kamala wasn't like the first woman, because we wanted it and we're thirsty for it so much. We were willing to put two dingbats, right, who had no accomplishments whatsoever in the office of president because we wanted it so bad.
Julie says he was a very good president.
Yeah, I agree to disagree on Obama. Julie, you have to say that because you'll be called a racist if you say he wasn't a great president.
It's starting to feel like more and more, maybe increasingly so over the last couple of years. Does it feel like the set strategies now, like the left is going to be that let's come off as the good guy, as the emotional appeal, as the love everyone and acceptance, when they're sort of the wolf in sheep's clothing, the what's the word? Covert, I think. They're like the covert narcissist, maybe, where they're like, I'm just going to either be evil under this disguise of goodness, or I'm just going to suck and not do anything. And then the right is like, we're loud and obnoxious and rude, and we say things and we don't care about decorum, and we're ready to just punch in the face anyone that comes at us, but we might get the job done. It kind of feels like we've got those two at play. Would you agree?
It is pretty obvious. And you got to look at it from the structures. Okay, so let's just say this was a meritocracy. And then all we did was find the best person. We agreed that the standards of what it means to be the United States of America, what our interests are, what we hold in high regard, and then we just pick the best person for that. Okay, would you agree that that's not how we elect a president?
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
Now, if you can make the argument that let's just take someone who's extremely popular, okay, and we'll take somebody who I feel is on the left, who's very popular on the left.
Popular as in well-known, or popular as in liked?
Well-known.
Past, present, any?
Doesn't matter.
Well, Biden is known.
Well, no. Let's not pick somebody who's filled the role. I'm just saying,
okay,
if we took a popular person and then ran them, not having any credentials to be president, but just based on their popularity and their likability from the populace, if we can get a president elected that was pretty much anybody. Prerequisite, popular.
JFK? Was he pretty popular?
JFK was off the charts popular.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's pick someone common. Like, let's just take an entertainer or an actor. Someone who's rather popular that liberals are going to be like, yeah, she says all the right things. He says all the right things on stage or in front of the microphone. And then make the argument that absolutely you don't think that they would have a good shot.
They wouldn't have a good shot
They would have a good shot, or they would.
Oh, like a Taylor Swift,
you
mean?
Taylor Swift runs for the nomination for the Democrat presidential candidate.
Yeah.
She has a good shot at winning.
Yes.
Is that an indictment of where you think and know we are, that someone who is only likable, beloved by groups of fans across the country, that you could have that as the president of the United States? I want to get to a point where you'd say, oh, I love Taylor Swift, but there's no way that I would vote for her.
Yeah.
If you had that sentiment across voters, then I would say, oh, we live in a society that's only going to put capable people in positions of power. But if you, in your brain, know Taylor Swift could have a good shot, then I'd be like, we are effed. We are hosed.
I mean, yeah, because if you look at it, back when Julie says Oprah
could.
Oprah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like when Trump sort of got into politics, everybody was sort of like this, ooh, we need this change. We need this business-minded individual, and he's going to treat the country like a business, and he's going to be different than a politician. Is he?
He is. Let's go over the ways where Trump is effective at a president. Okay. So for instance, like the last couple of Republican presidents have been very disappointing with what they were willing to do. They may have had some convictions and they stuck to it and they had a belief, but they were ineffective because none of those things actually worked in the political climate. So if you're like, I'm analyzing how I'm going to get a W, and do I have to take my credibility or my notoriety and martyr it for the sake of getting something done? Would I be willing to do it? So if I go in here and they're going to take shots at my personality, who cares? If they're going to take shots at my family, who cares? If they're going to take shots at me literally, who cares? If you're willing to do all of the things to get something done in spite of all the consequences of doing those things, you need someone who's impervious to all of the strategies that the Democrats have concocted over the last 2 decades to basically take a Republican candidate and destroy them and make sure they can't do anything. So he is the perfect mud monster the Democrats created by showing the strategy of what basically neuters any kind of Republican candidate.
Yeah, like take shots at my character, take shots at anything you want to do personally.
He's a complete narcissist.
He's an open book.
You cannot throw enough mud at him. You just create a bigger mud monster. You can't. So Democrats created Trump.
Democrats created Trump.
Think of the things that he's doing right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll say like George W. Bush invading a country. Why do you think the 9/11 thing in Afghanistan, in Iraq, right? All of that stuff that went down. Why do you think it was a cluster?
Are you talking about like the pulling out of and everything, or
no? It lasted effing forever. Like you had Norman Schwarzkopf that said, and Dick Cheney saying that here's what we're going to do. We have supreme firepower. We can go in there. We can wipe them out in 2 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. And then someone comes along in that power swamp and says, hey, if we do that, they're not going to like us. And George W.'s like, yeah, we don't really want them not to like us. We need them to like us, right?
Yeah.
So let's do this. So we could send 953 missiles. Well, let's send 2, right? Because 2 will get some of the job done, but maybe they can still like us again. So we were worried about things that meant we were playing the noble game. We didn't want to do those things, but you could see Trump like, hey, if we do this, they're not going to like us. I don't give 2 shits. Right?
Yeah. I'm going to get this.
I'm going to double down on it. Right? I'm going to get it double. So if he doesn't have a side of his personality that really cares whether or not somebody's going to like you after the fact, if you're going to punch you in the face, like, hey, if you punch that guy in the face, he's not going to want to deal with you. And you're just like, oh, I'm going to punch him in the face. And then I'm going to come back to the table and we're going to have another conversation. I'm going to threaten to punch him in the face twice. If he doesn't behave better this time, it's like, whoa, like they've ramped it up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so playing nice does not serve advantage in politics. And we had a bunch of nice people who wanted to like do a little bit of not nice, but have just enough nice to make sure the not nice stuff was ineffective.
Do you think Dems are starting to attempt to adopt that a little bit? Like when you see like, was it the governor or the mayor? Which one in Minnesota like dropped the F-bomb? That was the mayor. Like acting aggressive now. And even like Gavin Newsom, I feel like is like acting more aggressive. Do you think that's them sort of saying we may need to adopt a little bit of this?
It's almost like when Air America tried to do Rush Limbaugh and the Democrats try to make a Joe Rogan. It's not believable because it's not part of their brand. They cannot, the way the Democrats have situated themselves is by fraud. They have to build in fraudulent means that emulates authentic means for the Republicans. And so what the Republicans going after the indoctrination from academics and the NGOs that support Democrats and the fraud that goes back to political campaigns, that's all like writing and evening up, right? If you had a radio station, you remember Air America, by the way?
Not really.
Okay, so Rush Limbaugh dominated talk radio. Every talk radio station, conservatives listened and were loyal and bought products, right? Democrats sometimes listened, never bought products, and were loyal only for that hour kind of things, right? And so it didn't have a lot of a lot of those personalities worked for a little while, but then they were one-trick ponies. They couldn't keep people bought into the principles because there weren't any principles to speak of. So you'd have Air America that does really well and like, oh, look, we got ourselves another Rush Limbaugh. And we're like, hey, we can't sustain this because people aren't actually supporting it. And then you watch Air America go into insolvency and disappear. Like, well, why can't we get anybody buy-in long-term? Because it's a different philosophy. It's a minority philosophy that doesn't have the power to go up against conservative values. Conservative values will always win, right?
Mhm.
And so if you let the naturally occurring things happen, conservatives just take over the entire country, and the minority, whatever you want to call it, minority philosophy just dies until the next bad catastrophe happens. And then the minority thing, takes hold for a short stint and everybody's up in arms about it for a little while, but then it wanes and it gets back to the conservatives. Democrats recognized that they had to own the system in order to be competitive against Republicans. And we had to create catastrophes so we could take advantage and engineer the catastrophes to give ourselves that advantage.
Yeah, I mean, if somehow we manage to find ourselves in an era, in a season that there wasn't a lot of civil unrest drama, people were sort of getting along, people were kind of generally happy, things were going well, would you say the Democrats would be in a bad
They'd be done.
spot?
They're done right now because they overplayed that hand. They took, they took pieces of the strategy and overplayed them. And they created a lot of, they diluted that brand so that it got to be ineffective. So it's the Britney Spears effect. So when, like, if I come out on stage and I wear a short skirt, right, and that has an effect, and then people get used to seeing me in the short skirt and like, oh, I got to up the ante. Like, they got to pay attention to me again, and now I'll bring out my boobs, right? And then eventually you are naked on stage, and you're like, shit, yes, I got away with this last time, but now I'm naked. I can't go any further than what I am right now. That's where the Democrats are, where they can't add on. They've already supported terrorists. They've already supported lawbreakers. They've let every vice in the door already. So you can't shock me. Like, could you make a prediction that if that Trump could actually play with them a little bit and say he's for something that is virtuous, and 100% certainty that the Democrats would be against it no matter what it was?
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. Not, disclaimer, not rational thinking ones, but the far kind of captured.
But the popular Democrats. The popular Democrats are the fringe now. It's not like we get to take the, what's that Gropers guy, Nick Fuentes, right?
Mm.
He's a fringe guy, right? And so conservatives don't let Nick Fuentes speak for them because he's out there. Distance themselves from that kind of talk.
Yeah.
Democrats have brought the fringe into the mainstream and adopted things that are ridiculous, that takes the 60% of the middle and says, no, that's not for us right there.
They're being more and more run by
They
extremists.
overplayed their effing hand. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about, you have any more on that, by the way?
No.
All right, Jerome Powell. This is an interesting
Jerome
Sunday.
Powell.
Jerome Powell, anything about this?
No.
All right, let me fill you in. I'll set the pins for you. And he's the Fed chairman right now. Does not get along with Trump, right?
Okay.
He has served under 3 or 4 administrations. So in charge of the Federal Reserve, responsible for employment, finance, or interest rates, our whole money supply system, right? Important job. So if I were to say you're a normie, what's the Fed chairman ultimately responsible? What is he supposed to do? What's his job?
I don't even know. I'm a normie.
Okay.
You said he's over did you say unemployment?
Employment.
Oh, employment. Okay.
So his job is to look at the economy, and his job is to make sure runaways don't happen in either direction. If the economy is too hot, if the economy is too cold, he has controls to be able to print money supply, set interest rates, basically rein in to make sure that panic doesn't take on, where things don't go in one direction too far and the other direction. He can set certain policies that keep those dynamics so that we don't get into bubbles and busts. Is his primary job as far as I'm concerned.
So can he sort of avoid like really awful, what's the word I'm looking for? Not a depression, but like
Sure. Yeah.
When things kind of hit the fan.
Right.
And
His job is
bad.
to keep that so that it's more median and average down rather than runaway. So if you set up a stand selling chocolate bars out there, right? And you are, or not you, but somebody else is selling chocolate bars. You are the chocolate bar chairman, right? I'm going to say, here's what we need to do. We want to make sure, we don't know if your pricing is correct because it's fickle, right? If you set your prices too low, everybody's going to buy out your supply, and that's a bad thing. And if your prices are too high, then nobody's going to buy anything. So your job is to see how many chocolate bars are being sold. And if it's too many, you're going to raise the price dynamically every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not selling enough, you're going to lower it to incentivize the demand side. And you're going to keep it in the mid-range where we don't have total sellouts of your chocolate bars, where we don't have anything. And now we have scarcity, and we don't have no selling of it because prices are too high. We want to inspire. That control of the chairman can basically set up the sentiment in our economy. He's plays a very important role. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason he's not popular with the executive branch right now is because he could help Trump or he can hurt Trump, right? If you want surge in home sales, you can lower interest rates to add to the demand side of selling houses. Money gets cheaper. Houses then, people refinance and they buy houses. And so you can add to record number of sales by just lowering interest rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
If in your economy, that's what's necessary in it from an objective standpoint. I don't want the Fed chairman to be in opposition to the executive and not do something like, for instance, there's been a lot of accusations that he was a fan and wanted Kamala to be president. So what he did leading up to the election, he lowered interest rates to surge home sales, right? And so if people are happy financially, they're more likely to elect Kamala because it's a continuation of Joe Biden's policies. So could the Fed chairman then lower interest rates to help one party out or not? So that's one accusation.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when Trump became president, he was really reluctant to lower interest rates. In fact, raising interest rates to stifle off the demand and to lower inflation, right? And so you can make the accusation timing-wise, his decisions on the Fed side did not line up with pro-Trump. It was looked to be more Biden-Kamala oriented. They helped more than what he did now. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you believe that he just took his advisors and it was apolitical and he made decisions based on the economy, which I tend to believe, I don't think the dude is political at all. I don't think any of his moves had anything to do with helping one candidate or another. So I am not in that camp whatsoever. But I can see where the executive putting pressure saying, hey, Powell's an idiot. He's not lowering interest rates, right? I don't want the executive branch to have power to force the Fed. They're supposed to be a completely distinct, different, wing or arm, a private deal that should get no pressure from anyone.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, the Department of Justice is investigating Powell, not for kind of impropriety in his main capacity. It's for the Fed building. They're doing renovations of the Fed building. And when he went before Congress, he asked for X amount of money to do this retrofitting of the Fed building. Even if it's a federal building, how much what would you be comfortable with for a building to be retrofitted or have some additions put on it or changes made to a federal building? What would be too much?
I mean, I don't know what buildings cost, but you would think you gotta kind of show me what's needed and why.
Let me give you some examples. Okay, let's just say that it was an aged building, so you need to do some HVAC and some electrical, add some new outlets in there, maybe fix some ceilings and maybe rehab some of the marble, maybe put some new computer systems in there and some tech equipment, maybe new desks outfitted with brand new monitors and whatever. All right, when you're thinking about the Federal Reserve and 1,000 employees in that building, what would you say that a rehab would cost? What is too much? What is outlandish?
Billion feels outlandish.
Okay. What about 3 billion?
Yeah.
5 billion?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the charge is that this rehab project that I think first was pitched at $3 billion and did a cost overrun to $5 billion is being charged that it's too much. There's some fraud in there. There's some stuff that didn't need to be done. It doesn't sound like a rehab project. It sounds like somebody made a bunch of money off of the taxpayers.
I was going to say, is that going to like a salary or
so that's
bonus
why it's being
or something?
investigated. And for those of you on the left who think that, well, $5 billion is probably enough. It's a nice marble building that the Fed uses, right? That you don't really get a grand jury to agree that let's do an investigation if there isn't some merit to what's being asked. And as a taxpayer, I want every investigation. I don't want there to be any kind of government organization that is free of audits or investigations. If you dig in and you come up empty, then cool. Great. You're on the up and up.
That's kind of why when you said, well, what would you think would be reasonable? I'm like, how big's the building? How many people work there? What have we looked at as far as materials? Do we need those materials? Like a lot of questions got to go into that, not just how much do you want? There you go.
So from a taxpayer's perspective, I think it sounds like a lot. And if somebody else was in charge, does it cost that? And taking an objective contractor to come in and testify like, here's the list of all the things that need to be done. And yep, that's what it costs. Or I looked at all the things and like, holy shit, that's like 100x what it should actually cost. One way or the other, an investigation is supposed to have results. An objective viewer doesn't stump for one side or the other, just saying, oh crap, we made a mistake. We created a little farce but again, this is sort of like, what was the mobster who they got on tax evasion? What the heck's his name? Famous mobster, Elliot Ness. What the heck's his name? Please help me. This
is in the days of Elliot Ness?
Yeah, Elliot Ness, who was the mobster that they put in jail for tax evasion.
Elliot Ness.
Why can't I think of his name? Somebody help me out there. But anyway, so it's like if you have a problem with the Fed and what you're going to indict him for and get him in trouble for was overspending on a rehab of your building kind of thing. That seems a little like petty. And then Al Capone. Thank you.
Al Capone.
I can't believe I couldn't come up with Al Capone. But anyway, but that's the thing. Like, I don't like this guy. I want to get something on him and I want to go after him and I want to get him for X. It feels like you went to a very fringe part in order to go after a guy that you don't like. And so in politics, if you don't like someone, should you be able to use your Department of Justice in any way that you can to hurt somebody? Like, I want to go after Trump, but let's get him on line items on a tax form. Like, It feels a lot like the petty Department of Justice is still being weaponized every bit as much as it did during the Biden regime.
Yeah, that's why I say every time we see these things like Senate hearings, for example, I think they are a complete and total waste of time.
Agreed.
Because all they're doing is saying their own piece and pushing their own agenda. They're not actually there to do what makes sense and what's going to work for everybody and what the right answer is. It's just, how can I make you look bad because you are on the opposite team?
Right.
That's all it is. And it feels like our government is just so dirty. Like, it's just so not what it's supposed to be, because instead of it being, let's do things that make sense and make things work and prosper, it's two teams, me against you, and we got to always stay that way. And so then everything becomes corrupt and everything is you versus me and everything is how can I win or look good and make you lose and look bad at the expense of the American people who will foot the bill for all the fighting.
Yeah. And Jerome Powell, like, I think he's a brilliant guy, and I think he's apolitical. I think that he's immune from just telling the president exactly what he wants to hear, and he became an enemy. I'm willing to see if there was misdeeds done and that they were using this contracting thing to funnel money to Democrats or whatever, but I'm open to it, but that's not my feeling that I get on it. Think if you were a part of the Joint Chiefs, right? And you had to, and we're talking about Cuba, for instance. And Trump says, we got to invade Cuba. Do you want to be the member of the Joint Chiefs that says, Mr. President, I don't think that's a wise decision right now. You're stupid. I think you should not be here anymore.
You're not a team player. Clearly, you're incompetent at your
Would you
job.
want to ever fill that role of telling the president that what he wants, he can't have, or you're going to, disagree that that's what we should do right now? I would never want to be that at all, right? And I think Jerome Powell is falling on this sword because I think he is objective. I think he's very smart and I think he does a job, but I think he's done. I think he's going to get decimated by the political process. Because the Fed was used politically. As long as you don't ever use your thing politically, then you will never. There's no way that we're going to go after you for objectivity. But the minute that you sacrifice your integrity for political means, and do I think the Fed has been used politically? I do, because at the time it's like, think about sitting around the table. All right, the economy needs to be reined in. The economy needs to be expanded. Jobs number. You got pressures from the outside world saying, hey, we need good job numbers right now, right? Can you do something to get job numbers up? Right? And as long as it doesn't ill affect anything that you're going on, and you can do something nice for the administration so they will do nice things for you, right? Mm-hmm. Even if the public would be completely go white pale over the fact that somebody who was supposed to just give you data gave the data that you wanted to get, like that's what we want to avoid. Compromised, corrupt systems that eventually will have to play an important role on doing something. But once you remove that trust, where the public are like, you're just another political apparatus, instead of, when the Joint Chiefs are at the what's the thing that happens in January, the State of the Union, right? And they don't clap, right? Because they need to be impartial. They're not Republican military or Democrat military. They're the freaking military. So they don't involve themselves in any kind of political celebration. What would happen if a couple was like, all right, I'm a proud Democrat and I'm going to clap during this thing because I like that? Well, the people watching are like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I feel like everybody used Pete Hegseth's speech to be that sort of like political play towards the right or the left when they're like, oh, well, look at all these military members in this room and how off-put they look and how blah, blah, blah. And they don't seem to support this. And it's like, their job is to look neutral. Yes. They are not supposed to stand and clap. They are not allowed to. You are a machine. You sit there and listen and you show no bias whatsoever.
The judiciary should not be, no such thing as a Republican or Democrat judge. The military, no such thing, because we need those people to be the balancing power. Politics are supposed to be confined in the legislative branch and the executive only. Well, the military being part of the executive, but parts of the executive need to be completely neutral. Mm-hmm. And, I value disagreement more than anything else, right? If I can have a person that's my critic sit down and talk with me, I don't need people to agree with me. I need perspective on things that I might not have thought about and might affect somebody who's not me. So my critic is going to tell me things and I'm going to weigh them a little bit and they're going to give me valuable information. If I had 6 people in front of me that their whole obligation was to make me happy and just tell me what I wanted to hear, there's no value in that whatsoever.
Yeah, kind of like, we've been accused even on this podcast of not wanting to hear views other than our own, when Julie is like one of our biggest supporters and interacts with our show on a daily basis. And we don't always see eye to eye with Julie, but Julie's very important. Just as much, Carter tends to sort of be a little more on the same page as stuff that we're saying. And that's great to have. But if everybody was sort of the same mindset and on the same page and everybody's just going along with the flow and nobody says, by the way, what about this ever? Then now you're just sort of on that destructive path again, and you're not seeing your blind sides, and that's not going to be a good thing.
You know what would be good? I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and I think everybody should be required to be a Browns fan. It should be right out of high school. You have to serve 4 years being a Browns fan. You know what we do as Browns fans?
Cry a lot.
We do cry a lot. But one thing that we do is we are more critical of our own team than we are of the other team, right? We question all motives. We know what we want. when you make a dumb move, we're not like a fan and saying, oh, it's the best decision ever made, right? Our fans are brutal to our players. Our media for that football team are brutal to our team. So our team has to prove to us they're not the idiots that we think they actually are.
Yeah.
We go too far. Like, we'll take moves and just be on the other side of that, where we go like we take a guy that just graduated high school, put him in a quarterback spot, and we get mad when he doesn't throw 9 touchdowns that day. So we go overboard and have expectations that are higher, and it's not fair to that dude to how critical we are. But I think we need more political humility, where we need to be critical. Like, I'm a cynical person. I don't trust any kind of authority whatsoever. Even if it's my team, which I think everybody's idiots. So it's pretty easy to do. The Republicans are idiots, libertarians are idiots, and Democrats are idiots. So it's pretty easy for me when they do something exceptional. I'm actually pretty surprised, because that is exceptional, because most of the time everybody's brain dead and disappoint me on a regular basis.
You ever watch Family Feud?
Yes.
Do you get mad?
Yes. I know what you're going to say.
When a family member says the worst, dumbest answer, and the rest of the family's like, good answer, answer. It's up there.
Margaret, that was dumb.
Yeah, they should be allowed to be like, what is wrong with you? Stop talking. You're stupid. Like, let's make it realistic here.
And like Joseph said, or Joe, I'm sorry, Joseph, I was too proper. And Browns fans are loyal. It's almost like two brothers, right?
Yeah.
Did you have brothers in your household?
I had 2 brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
When they're together, they are evil to one another. But go ahead and talk some shit about one of them and watch the other one beat the shit out of you. We could be mean to each other because we know we're loyal to our team. And that's the way we show our affection for greatness, is we want you to be better, even if we're mean to you. That's like the blue collar spirit. I love that in the blue collar spirit. Like, nobody's going to talk shit about my brother, but I'm going to talk shit to my brother.
Yeah. That's kind of funny. I've had relationships with that, even with like male friends or coworkers. Like, somebody that I am close to enough that I am comfortable enough to like curse out and call an idiot and what are you doing? But if an outsider comes in, I was like, what?
See? That's
not your idiot. That's my idiot.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Loyal, but also critical. But if you were a Biden fan and couldn't take any shots at him, right? You weren't a loyalist. You were captured. And that's what we need to avoid, is the hero worship and the capture in politics.
That would be nice if we could do that.
Yeah.
Like this whole Minnesota shooting, gosh, I keep thinking more and more. Have you seen the most recent camera footage released, the one that the actual agent was filming?
Yeah.
I know this is not important. I know that people are going to fight regardless, and the loss of a life is probably more important than any of the other fighting. But I've got to admit, deep down, I want to hear people on the left start admitting you were wrong in this situation. When this narrative was formed of a mother dropping off her children who accidentally turned down a wrong road, found herself involved and surrounded by ICE agents, became scared and confused and reacted, when that so clearly got debunked and you were silent, that says a lot. Like, be the person that states, oh my God, that was a lie. It's clear. It's clear the situation they were in. Crystal clear. I want to hear some people say, here's what actually happened. Doesn't make it okay. It still sucks. We all wish it didn't happen, but we know the true situation now, and we can all be on the same page there. And the fact that we're not shows how captured people are. Julie says, don't do it, Kelin. Julie, was I okay? I feel like I walked the line there. I was on a tightrope. I feel like I stayed on it.
So I had a pretty good argument with my wife about this whole thing. And she was clearly on the side. She and I are very principled about loss of life, the most precious thing in our world, only here 80 years, and anything that deprives you of life has to be at the absolute, unavoidable, catastrophic, last resort, situation.
I mean,
right?
even like someone on death row, you make sure this is the right decision before you act. Yeah.
And that's why I even went all the way from abortion to capital punishment, right? I hate when life is taken, completely hate it. So you have to have a really high bar if you ever take it. So that's my first principle. If there's any other options that preserve life, I'm taking it 100% of the time. I don't care how wrong you were.
Mm-hmm.
You don't extinguish life 100% of the time. And so I just came from that principled side where, my first checkbox was, could you have, when it comes to abortion, like if you had a kid that was brought into the world under circumstances where they lived a terrible life, right? Where they were abused, where no business having that life in there. I still go back to my first checkbox. Does the life have a chance? Is it alive or is it dead? And I will always go, you can give me any circumstance. I don't care if a kid is born and is raped for the first 10 years of their life. That is still better than being not here and being dead, because that's alive versus not being alive. And so I stay true to my principles, even if they're messy principles, that's where I'm going, every part of that instance. Now, when I argued against my wife on this, if we came to the conclusion that what's important to us is life, period, then we would have agreement. If everybody said, okay, this is dumb, like Iran fired bullets into a crowd of protesters, protester gets shot in her car, baby gets aborted, let's, life is precious anyway, let's not do taking of life anymore. It's off the menu. Let's find other ways to deal with things we don't like that does not include taking someone's life, period. Mm-hmm. Now we'd have agreement. But we have all of these weird, I'm partially right justifications that end up in the only thing that's not allowed on the menu, which is someone got their life taken. Mm-hmm. So if somebody committed serial killing, 25 murders, you can argue that person, they basically gave up their right to life, right? You don't take life, yours should be taken. If I stayed true to my principles, I would say I would lock you in a cage for the rest of your life, where I want to keep you insulated so you can't take any further life, but your life is still here and I don't have the ability to take yours. And that's uncomfortable for me because I want to see a serial killer, especially if they killed my wife, right?
Yeah.
To not be here anymore. But that's just wrath, and I can't give in to wrath.
Kind of like, isn't Gypsy Rose Blanchard? Have you heard of her? Hmm. She's been like real well known, more so pop culture. She was a victim of, oh God, I always forget this word. Is it Munchausen? What is it when you're kept sick?
Yeah, it's
Munchausen.
Yeah.
Her mother did that to her for years. When she found out, and people can correct me, I don't know the details of this, she killed her mother and she went to prison for a long time. She's now out. She's released. She's living her life, was getting married, was in the media, all this stuff. And everyone's like, you killed your mother. But some people were like, well, she was a victim of her mother. And she herself was dying because of this being poisoned for years and years. And so, yeah, that's sort of that, like, you did something terrible. I get it, but still terrible. Well, I would bet you would say Gypsy Blanchard shouldn't be allowed to just go on and live a happy life now.
Yeah. She would give up liberties, but the one thing that you can't take away is life. So someone breaks into my house. Am I taking a kill shot, or am I going to injure you and make sure that you're not a danger to my family? I'm going with the warning shot because I don't want to hurt you or kill you. But if you put you in a position, I'm going to hurt you so that you can disable you. And my last resort, when I've done all other things, is I will take that kill shot. But it's going to take a lot for me to do that because that goes against everything I believe in.
And in that situation, is the burglar without fault?
No, totally at fault. They put themselves in that position.
And that is my whole thing in this situation. And the reason it is such a like sticky situation is because somebody died who I feel didn't deserve to die. When I first saw the very first video release, my gut reaction was, whoa, that was unnecessary. That went from 1 to 100 real fast. I don't think she deserved to die. I wish she didn't. I don't know if that ICE agent acted too quickly and too harshly. I wasn't him. I don't know. I've heard he got hit by the car. I know there's a history there. Fine. I think both can have fault at the same time. And what I say to Julie when she says what you see as crystal clear is not crystal clear to me. To me, what is crystal clear is she didn't accidentally end up there. She went there with a purpose. She and her wife went to cause problems, and they were actively committing a crime when the unthinkable happened. I'm not saying it's okay how he reacted. I'm not saying she deserved to die. She 100% didn't. And I think everybody can agree we hoped and would wish that that situation ended differently. What's crystal clear is there was a clear and present aggressor. There was steps taken that didn't need to be taken in that situation. I think both the home intruder and the homeowner can carry fault if someone is killed. And that's this situation as well.
Okay, from a cultural standpoint, let's talk cultural mathematics here.
Mm-hmm.
So your neighborhood has a bunch of break-ins, right? And someone breaks in, and the law enforcement goes on the news and says, hey, want to let everybody know that's doing these break-ins? We're giving a green light that anybody has a green light to shoot to kill. You rob them, shoot to kill. The messaging is so that the people who are doing this now are dissuaded from doing the robberies, knowing that they could give their life, right? They could lose their life in doing it. So the hope is not an empty threat, but an actual threat that you were trying to get less people doing it by the threat of you losing your life. And then so people are like, I don't believe you. Your messaging's terrible, whatever. But then somebody in the neighborhood drops somebody because they stole something. The headlines are. Now, on the aggregate, if then thieves and thievery goes down because of it, and lives were spared, so you had to sacrifice one life for an example's sake, so that 30 lives down the road aren't even part of the equation anymore. Now, on the aggregate, culturally, you had a net improvement by dissuading the thing that could cause catastrophic life. And so if you put the guy in prison, he doesn't kill anymore, like you kill that dude, and then you save 30 lives that he would have killed sometime in the future. And that's the thinking, the threat. But when the threat's not adhered to, if we're like, we're the United States, and if you cross that red line, we're going to shoot missiles at you. The words are supposed to stop you from crossing the line. If you're in a society that doesn't really look at law, order, and line crossing, you almost need an example to keep people from even considering it. How many people now will not block in ICE, will not gun the accelerator towards an officer because that person sacrificed their life to save maybe 50 people in the future that won't even take that and contemplate it? That's a harder math to look at.
Yeah. Julie says, protest is not a crime. You can just call me an effing biatch from now on. No, yeah. Protest is not a crime.
No,
no one's arguing there.
I'm a rebellious spirit, Joe. I think all the protests in the world, you put your sign, you have your megaphone, as long as you don't step in the bubble of other people and get in their way and block traffic. That's where we go from what is a protest.
Peaceful protest. You got a sign, you're shouting things, you're standing on the street, you're not in anyone's way, you're not hurting anyone, you're making your voice heard. Do that all day long.
Yes.
That's not what happened here.
Right.
This person physically got in their face.
Yeah, they pushed the line of what it means to protest because protests are ineffective. The universities have conditioned kids that if they're loud and they chant and they play their bongo drums, right? Mm-hmm. That somehow that's going to have an effect and change. And the problem is you get a little, you get a little bit disappointed that when you're saying things and you wish people would pay attention to you and you're not changing things, you ramp it up and you get like, I'm going to block, since you won't listen to me, I'm going to block traffic and I'm going to really get in your way. I'm going to glue myself to the street. Now you've gone from what is a protest to actually taking other people's liberties away from them. Now you've gotten into the realm where you're the aggressor. You're not just a protester. So aggressive people that hold you hostage, right? You're driving down the road. Somebody gets in your way and they obstruct you from doing what you wanted to do. They get arrested and be put in prison, and then you get all pissed off about it happening. But that's justice, right? That's due process. What do you think should happen to those hand gluers, by the way?
Hand gluers?
Yeah. These environmentalists, they go in the middle of a street and they glue their hand to the road.
Oh, yeah.
But then, people have to come out and free them from that. They have to ruin the road. And
what if they didn't come free them?
What if we just let natural selection happen and let them serve the consequence of their actions, and they just become road fodder?
Yeah.
That's a dangerous prospect.
Here's an interesting question. And this is actually, let me make this point, because this is actually not where I was going with my point. The idea of who's to blame isn't the point I was trying to make. The point I was originally trying to make was the lies in the narrative that pushes us to this situation in the first place. I want, after everyone seeing that video release, to acknowledge that the narrative of a confused, lost mother accidentally being there was a complete and total lie.
Bullshit.
It was made up. It was a lie. It was to pin you against me, people against people, to keep you arguing over something. And if that doesn't speak volumes, we're screwed. If we can't see in this horrifically tragic, sad situation how greater powers are manipulating us to keep fighting over something, we're so effed, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to fight over whose fault it was. Did he overreact? Did she try to kill him? Did whatever. And it's like, look at the freaking people that just lied about what happened to infuriate us. Mm-hmm. So admit that didn't happen.
Julie says that he broke every protocol of law enforcement. The onus was on him. I don't believe the onus was on him.
Yeah.
And I think when they investigate it, they're going to find that he, I guess, first tell me which protocol, and I'll make sure I don't have a lack of understanding of what police protocols are. But you have to also say that she broke every protocol of a protester. So you have two people. Let's just say he did break protocol. They both are of equal guilt.
Yeah.
At best case.
Worst
case, he followed the letter of the law, and when they investigate, they're going to find that he followed it by the book, and she was clearly more in the wrong than he was. And we're going to find out after an investigation.
How about Trump's declaration that he was fighting for his life in the hospital? Yeah, if that's not true, and Trump made up a narrative to make things seem worse, to push his own agenda, same thing.
He's equally as guilty.
Yes, absolutely. These powers that be are pushing their own viewpoints onto us in manipulation.
That is the game.
Yeah.
Like, I told you 2025 and 2026 was turnabout is fair play. If you take dramatic effect on one side and you get balanced by dramatic effect on the other side, if you weaponize the Department of Justice on one side, you get the Department of Justice weaponized on the other side. If you scam the elections and you get scammed in elections, I feel zero guilt for you at all.
Yeah. I mean, I feel for the ICE agent. If this was the guy that was also dragged by a car and almost killed in another protest, I feel for him. I can understand him being a little leery. However, in law enforcement, from what I've heard, I've never worked in law enforcement, if you draw your gun or you shoot someone, you're required to go through some processing, some time off, some counseling. That's something that needs dealt with, because you can't just pull your gun on a kid that snuck up on you next time. Mm-hmm. You can't let that bias of that trauma allow you to hurt someone else unnecessarily. So you can both feel for both sides and still think there's blame on both sides.
Right.
It doesn't have to be one of them was good and one of them was bad. It was a bad situation. But speaking of sort of this culture of causing problems and getting in the way, How do you feel now about this idea being proposed of charging the wife with criminal activity? Have you heard about that?
No, that's being considered.
Supposedly, I don't know if it was Trump made a social media about this or somebody else may have. So the wife was in the vehicle with her, got out, started filming, and you can see this in the ICE agent's video. She was being disrespectful, saying, "Go have lunch, big boy," was getting in the way, and then she yelled, "Drive," to her wife. She's like, "Drive, baby, drive." So she hit the gas, and then now they're saying, why is she not being charged criminally? She instigated. She told her to go. She was in the way. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this.
Well, if you took the number of people that were doing things that were in that gray area across the line, I don't think that she would appear on that radar. There are other things like I throw a rock at a police officer, a snowball, like you made contact with someone, that person should be charged way before somebody who just gave, because I'm sure in those protesters, there's some, terrible things that are being said at these officers. And so, no, I don't think someone should be charged for something that they said.
If she was standing in the way and blocking their operation, should she be arrested?
Oh yeah, but they got to take it serious. And anytime someone obstructs, I don't care if you're, like AOC, where you are telling people how to avoid ICE agents, that's obstruction. So if you're going to take obstruction serious, it's got to be everybody who tries to obstruct, arrests or investigations, not just the one that happened to be in the car. And they don't take obstruction very serious. And I think that's part of the problem, where you'll take, a couple of operatives and you'll run them in unmarked cars. You have someone following you. Like I would peel off the last car and go to the window and say, "Stop following me," like one time. And if you continue to follow me, I would arrest you, because you're not there for any other reason than to obstruct the investigation or the arrest. Like give me the scenario that you're there that doesn't equal obstruction.
If you're on the sidewalk out of the way and you're just chanting with a sign.
Right. But if you're following a CIA operative who's investigating a terrorist, do you think that he's just going to allow you to tail him around? Right. Even if you were passive, even if you were doing anything, if you were just relaying the area that he was looking in on Discord, right?
Yeah.
That would be obstruction, where you're taking information that, I'd lose the tail and I'd arrest the person who's tailing me in 2 seconds. You got to take obstruction seriously.
Do you know I'm not making light of this situation, but I got to admit, in this era of AI, the very first time I saw any video footage of this, I thought it was fake because of the giant dinosaur in the background. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't see the giant dinosaur.
There's a giant dinosaur, like a T-Rex or something. I don't even know. By the houses in the background.
Did you get AI'd? Is that what you're talking about?
It's in
here?
all the videos. People, tell me there's not a giant dinosaur. It's in all of them, to the point that I went, am I watching fake video, or does somebody have like I don't know if it was like a decoration, a Halloween thing that somebody left out. I don't know, but there was a giant dinosaur in the background, which made me question everything I was seeing.
And no arrest came from the dinosaur?
Not yet.
I think they may have.
Not yet.
They should have. They missed a.
Jerry says, this is such bullshit that over time people do not know how to respond. They go to a Trump situation. Trump did nothing that day, period, to cause what happened. Julie says he stood in front of the vehicle, the use of deadly force.
So protocol wise, if you're telling someone to get out, I mean, I've watched a bunch of police chases.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody's instructed to get out of a vehicle, usually they'll park a vehicle in front of them because they don't want to get hit. But I can assume that parking your body in front of there is a police asset. I don't think that's too far. I would, if I'm the chief of police, right, I'm not saying that that's the best position to be in, because if you've got some idiot that guns it, like, they could totally do body damage there.
Yeah.
It wasn't smart, but I don't know if it was out of protocol.
Especially because and again, Julie, and I think maybe it was you, Julie, maybe it wasn't. Somebody also, when we talked about this, painted this picture of a confused woman up in arms, scared, confused, waving the guy along. When you see this video, not the case. Clearly looking at the officer, addressing him, saying something smart, got a hand out of the window. Not at all that. Not at all that. I want to hear you people acknowledge that there was a fake narrative here.
Yeah.
You can still say, but she didn't deserve to die. Absolutely. Acknowledge the fake narratives being pushed here.
What about your parallel with January 6th? Okay, because there's two parts of this, and it's a fair statement to take someone who is, or a group of people that were protesting, right, and then putting them in positions where law enforcement started to feel threatened, right? So you have to make an analogy between what she did and using the deadly weapon of a vehicle to make an officer feel like if he didn't shoot that his life was in jeopardy versus people that are walking into the Capitol. And did they gang tackle police? Did they assault police? Did they throw things at police? And where's your line where a police officer should pull his firearm and start dropping people that were coming in? And was it Ashley something or other that got dropped? And I don't know what she did. I think it was like going through a window or something like that, and she got shot. But the point of the president then pardoning those people, and if you've listened to the show, not a fan of pardons to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. And so if a court and a jury said that somebody went beyond, the line and posed a danger to law enforcement, well, they need to go and get the punishment that everybody else gets. If it got political, where someone was charged for something that nobody gets charged at, or a prison sentence that was beyond that, then I could see using the pardon to take, let's just say this went down differently, where she did not make way towards the officer, right? Mm-hmm. She pulled off, he didn't shoot her, she went along, and she was arrested. And then she went in front of a judge, she got put in prison, she got sentenced to 60 days, right? Well, the analogy, the two comparisons then would be, if a person during a protest crosses the line, does something illegal, nobody dies, nobody is injured, you get 66 months. Then a January 6th person who does the same thing, where they go into a building, they broke down a police line, and then they escaped, got in front of a jury, it should be no more than what that sentence would be. And if they ended up getting 8 years for January 6th and 6 months for a protest in Minneapolis, well, then I use my pardon to say, oh, you've served a year already, I issue my pardon. That doesn't exonerate you from it. It just limits the political punishment that was handed down because it was January 6th versus a Minneapolis protest.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I saw a video online too of this guy. He was kind of up in arms about this. And the reason he said he was so, I guess, emotional or strongly convicted to share is he said, I am the protester. And he showed all these mugshots over the years of how he's been arrested protesting. He's like, I'm a protester. I stand for what I believe in. I exercise my right to protest. And never, ever would I have resisted law enforcement. And he says, where are the leaders? Where are the government officials saying in any way, shape, or form, you cannot get in the face of law enforcement. You cannot resist arrest. You cannot get violent with them. Stay out of their way. By all means, protest legally. Absolutely. But do not cross this line. Why do you think they're not saying that?
It's a good question. It's almost like they want to ramp this up. It's almost like Oregon and Minnesota, they have their identity in pushing against law and sanctuary city to start with. But, the George Floyd protests, like it's almost like they have a city of martyrs who are almost inviting bad things to happen to them so they can say whatever, because it helps the cause. If there isn't police brutality or there isn't fascist dictators, It's almost like they lose a part of themselves. They need the cosplay to push against some kind of authority. And then so the state and the mayors and the governor have to feed into what the public is so that they can all be relevant. It's a terrible game. I saw a couple of protesters that were engaging with a couple of the ICE agents, and they were begging them to be shot. Now, who does that?
Oh my
God.
God.
We've gone beyond like I've got something I believe in and something I'm pushing against, but then want to be the next evidence of police brutality, willing to give your life so you can be killed and going up against to see how far you can go before someone shoots you. That's crazy.
I saw a video of an agent outside the car window, people in the car filming the agent, somebody outside the car filming the agent, and the agent's like, please stop. Do not make a bad decision today. Y'all need to go. You're about to be in a bad situation today. Don't do this to yourselves. And they're like, F you, blah, 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 doing this. And he's like, please be careful. You don't want to end up in a bad situation today. He didn't get violent. He's like, warn. Now, if those people continued to push it, and got hurt, who's to blame?
Right. Yeah, like if that lady would have assaulted the cop and got shot right there, then and there, who would you blame at that point? She was begging for it. She wanted it to happen. She did just enough to warrant a protocol response from them. And then we'd be in the same discussion here about putting how much she was an active mother and she was a hero pushing against the oppression. And then the cop would be like, well, dude, all you have to do to not get shot is to not do that.
Yeah. And Julie, here's why I don't like so comply or die from the Gestapo.
Let's make that argument.
Yes. An ICE agent didn't go into her home and start making demands. An ICE agent didn't go onto her property or to her job, her place of business, get in her face and start making demands. He did not say, comply or die with what I'm telling you to do. He didn't say, I'm now stepping on your territory, removing your rights from you, and if you don't comply, I will kill you. That didn't happen. That is not the situation. Here's what happened. She came to his workplace. She got in his face. They both came there to cause problems for them. You've got to admit that. That is a fact. That's not emotion. That's not a narrative someone's pushing. That's not being manipulative and making it look a certain way. You've got to admit that whether you believe it was a virtuous act, it was fighting for what's right, maybe you feel that way. She came to him. And when he said, stop this now, she didn't. She was actively committing a crime. She was actively committing a crime. And to tell a criminal, stop or I'm going to shoot, is completely different than going up to a totally innocent bystander and saying, comply with me or I shoot.
And as a fan of history and taking the Gestapo, the Lenins, the Hitlers, and figuring out like what's the real profile of when you have a government that takes its power and goes after a group of people for extermination. Like really, when you do that, it serves a profile, what they do. So when it comes to Gestapo, if you ask me, Reasonable Joe, if the government was the Gestapo and they were doing exterminations, I would want everybody to stand against the Gestapo. So it's not a matter of whether or not I'm with you or against you. You haven't made a case that that's what's actually happening. You're being dramatic and you're trying to make something into it. So I'm suspicious. I don't want an overreaching authoritarian government to be, going after a group of people because of ideologies or religion or whatever. So if you make that case for me, I'm freaking with you. But if you're pretending that we have a Gestapo and you're reacting as if there were a Gestapo, you haven't done enough to plead your case or make your case with me that says Trump and ICE are going after a group of people. Because everybody that I've seen and everybody that's evidenced in, if I say I'm sending this group of people out to round up through enforcement of law enforcement, illegal people, right? And so long that they are going after illegal people, they're leaving people that are not illegal completely alone. So Gestapo says they go through government records and they're like, I want to round me up some Latin Americans, right? And I go through my database and I find Latin Americans and I give neighbors to give up their Latin American people and I put them in a train car and I take them to the extermination centers. Or I go door to door and I'm like, you're not a Latin one, are you? And I round them up and I take them in my police car, right? That would be the profile of someone who is rounding up specifically for that kind of identity. Here, it's like illegal. The cop is the person that goes after the illegal, the robber, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a robber, you're taken away. If you're not a robber, you don't go with the police. So no, in a law and order society, illegal is the primary word there. If you're illegal, you go to jail. If you're not illegal, you're safe. You're good.
Yeah. Why are there so many protesters not dead or injured or arrested? If all of them were getting arrested, that would be a big red flag. Why are some totally fine and they go home?
Can I be Julie right now?
Yeah.
There were some innocent people that ICE have arrested. Right?
Yeah.
So the exception now is the predicate. So it's an overt deal. Were to use the guise of going after illegals to round up the legal ones, not as a mistake, not as someone caught in the net that wasn't supposed to be, right? But if you take that example, you're then going to have to say, all right, so I used the premise of arresting people with a warrant that said you were illegal. You showed me documentations. Then what happens next? Are you released after the mistake was outed? Or we're like, we don't freaking care. You're staying in this prison because we got you. You'd have to tell me that illegals were then continued to be persecuted, prosecuted, indicted, and jailed after they were able to prove that they're not one of the illegals that they were. If you can tell me that, give me an example. Not a mistake that was being made, but people were held in detention after they proved that they were not an illegal. Now I'm listening.
And I also don't want to listen when she says, they're going door to door, comply or die. Not what happened here. Not what happened here. Like sometimes it feels like what they want to do, they being people that sort of think like Julie, you make a good point and they say, but over here they did this. Well, we're not talking about over there. I don't know if they did or not. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That's another conversation. Not what happened here. They didn't go to door here. They didn't. She says, he said you didn't learn your lesson. When they asked what lesson, he smacked her phone. I don't even really know who you're referring to there, but I gotta admit, my first reaction is, why are you sticking your phone in an ICE agent's face? That's not peacefully protesting.
But that doesn't have anything to do with it. Just like the people who are listing her rap sheet and she was a bad person prior to that moment, there's nothing to do with it. The predicate is, right, that the predicate doesn't matter at this point, unless you're saying because of XYZ it contributed to, or XY. Was she a bad person? No, she was just a liberal activist who got a little overzealous, put herself in a compromising position, and got herself shot. What was he a zealot? He was a police officer that got caught in a moment where he could follow the protocol and followed it to a T. Like that is all I know about this. Whether or not he beat his wife last week or she put cigarettes out on her daughter's arms, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The punishment and what we're weighing this by is what happened in that moment.
Yeah, somebody said he had been accused of using excessive force in his career before.
So did he use excessive force now?
Did she still start it?
It doesn't matter. So sick of talking about this because we're bringing it all up, all these things that aren't related. And all we're looking to do is grab our pitchforks and torches and go after somebody. I don't want the Republicans doing that. I don't want the Democrats. It was a law enforcement deal where somebody did something stupid and did something that was to minimize human life. Yeah.
Yep. We've got to address this. Julie, how did we go from rounding up criminal illegals to killing U.S. citizens? I know exactly how we did that. How did we go from rounding up criminal illegals to killing U.S. citizens? Did or do you think, Julie, maybe it's because the U.S. citizens get in the face of the people working?
All right, let's do a due process talk about this.
Okay.
So if you're a blue-haired liberal advocate activist, right? And ICE is doing something you don't want them to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is your job as a citizen? What is the due process for making a change that you disagree with? Is it A, legislatively, regulations, rules, advocacy towards something, or is it intervening, right, and hijacking something that you disagree with? So she did not get killed because
ICE was hired to take
right.
out illegals.
She did it because she went from she did not feel like following due process. Due process, she said, it's not fast enough for me. It doesn't have the objective that I'm looking for. I'm a narcissist. I'm worried about me and nobody's listening to me. I'm going to take it upon myself and I'm going to be a vigilante. She died because she was a vigilante and she went too far. She didn't follow due process. Long and short.
Yeah, I agree. If something's coming to our state and I don't like it, calling up my representatives. I'm going higher than me. I'm asking questions. What is happening here? What can we do about this? Are you going to address this matter? Can you give me some information? Sure. Can I go on the streets or by a public building and make a sign and tell everybody? Can I start calling people and saying, hey, let's all agree that this isn't great. Can you also call our representatives and make your voice heard as well? There's all kinds of things you can do safely and legally. It's not their job to worry about that. They're not getting in the face of people going that route. They're only harming or shooting citizens that are not doing that are acting illegally, that are crossing a line, that are getting in their faces, and in some case, threatening them. Our cameras went haywire.
But again, because of the generation, they're not used to being told no. They're not used to getting their way. When they feel passionate about something, they escalate it beyond the due process of what they should do. And all of our culture has conditioned them that they feel like they're noble, and when nobody listens to you, you get pissed. Like if let's just say the city decided chipmunks. You like chipmunks?
Yeah,
chipmunks are awesome.
They're cute.
And the city was like, hey, we got too many chipmunks, giving you the green light. Anybody can kill and eat chipmunks, right? You don't like it,
No.
right? So you go to city council and you're like, we need to save the chipmunks, right? And the city council says, Kelin, thank you for sharing with you, but no, we're going to kill and eat chipmunks. You're mad because you wanted them to say, oh, okay, let's save the chipmunks. How dare you? So you have two choices. You either take the L, go back, persuade more, or go drastic and involve yourself into danger for the sake of the chipmunks.
Put my body between the hunter and the chipmunk.
Right. If you do that,
Not
right,
doing that.
You went, I could follow due process, which is slow and grinding, and I might not get my way, or they're going to listen to me because I'm going to push my agenda on them, and they're evil and stupid, and I'm going to turn everybody against them because they didn't also support the chipmunk. They're bad people. The chipmunk example, multiply that in every direction, and that's where we're at. All right, we got to get out of here.
Thanks,
Peace
everyone.
out. Catch you tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.